I'll make a motion to approve said minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
And Kevin will second. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meetings from October 3rd are then approved. So I know the one topic I would like to firm up, and we discussed this a little bit in October, is the budget.
Yeah.
The office is requesting, Selectman's office is requesting that, as soon as we can, trying to check the boxes and get things wrapped up for the end of the year and whatnot. So we had talked of, as it are in those minutes in October, about attendance, and we have a sixth person now.
Yep.
So if we did that with a sixth person, it comes to $2,520. Proposed for this year, we had cut that back to $1,500, and that was based on 5, and we picked up the sixth.
Yeah, 5 on 10 meetings, I think. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, this year we've had a meeting every month, and we have used. Oh, Kelly gave it to me. Oh, here it is. We've used $1,330 thus far. $1,330, yes.
Through October.
Through October,
No,
yeah.
There's still November and
December.
December. Yeah,
Right.
Right.
So if we had a full board this month and next month, we would be up to $1,750, which is close to, that 18. So my feeling from the selectmen, from the select board, is they're really trying to hold tight and accurate the budget. As you noticed in our town taxes, the actual town portion was down a bit. So I'm thinking to honor some sort of compromise. Not put in the full 2520, but to, 2,000, since we came pretty close, or 1,800, since we've actually had, for next year, we've had.
What's the full? So we have 5 and an alternate.
Yes.
And if we have 6 people for 12
months.
25-20.
Yeah, 25-20.
Let's say we did 6 people times 10. I mean, we had every meeting this year. But
Right.
6 times 35 equals times 10. You're still $2,100 if you were to say we only had 10 meetings with full attendance, which I think would be a compromise.
Yeah, but we've used,
we might run short
13:30.
this year.
Yeah.
and that doesn't.
I and every board, every nonprofit thing I've ever been involved in, I do not like when they say, well, we'll just find the money somewhere else.
Right.
Yes.
You're appropriating money or you're not appropriating, you're spending money that you haven't appropriated.
Okay,
Right.
and this board, that is their sort of their philosophy or their feeling. If we need more money for attendance, they'll take it.
I mean, but that would be like the road agent saying, I want to pay 5 miles of road, and they're saying, well, we can only afford to pay 3, but if you pay 5, we'll find another 2 miles. I mean, that's what
Right.
it's analogous. And we're talking $500 here, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
It's like,
So I was hoping to, come up with perhaps a sort of a compromise of,
What I remember from last year was us presenting like the number for if we had 5 plus 2 and 12 meetings.
Yeah.
And that's what I said no.
but then they cut it back to what we actually did last year, which was,
Yeah.
10. We had 10 meetings.
Yeah.
It was fine. They were what they were. We didn't have full attendance at all of them, so they used that exact number.
Right.
And we only had 5.
It was almost the worst case scenario. Like 3 or 4 years at the planning board, conservation commission, we haven't had like lost that many meetings in a year. That was
Right,
the one
yeah.
time where we lost 2 meetings in a year, so it's the worst case scenario from a budget standpoint.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's not that hard to take the money and pay the taxpayers back. I mean, this happens all the time, you know, it gets put in a rainy day fund, puts it in a general fund, gets returned in the next year's tax rate, whatever it is, to offset the tax rate. I don't see why an extra $500 or $700 is a big deal, so.
I'm in agreement that I think we should present for the number of members we have times the number of scheduled meetings.
Okay.
So 6 times 12.
Yeah.
I think we should ask that, and if
Yeah.
they want to say no to that, then they can say no to that.
Okay.
But
So
it's
that's
not asking for hypothetical alternates that we don't have. It's asking
Right.
for the members that we actually have.
Yeah.
right. So that comes to 25-20. Would be six
Yeah.
six of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good budgeting, you know, I don't think it makes sense to budget for something that, you know, could happen, like you said. I mean, we could only have 6 meetings next year with 3 people, you could have a quorum at each meeting.
Right.
Our
Yeah.
budget would be, you know, $600 or whatever, but, I just don't think it makes sense to do that, so I'm okay with just saying, this is what our budget is. If
Okay.
you don't like it, fine, but it's on you if we have to come back and
Right.
if we're over budget, that's,
Okay.
we'll remind them, which
Right.
we'll be doing this year, it looks like, right? Because you said we'll be over for this year? Because
Yeah, we budgeted 1,500
and we're at 13.
and 1,330, so we're gonna, kind of come close. The 3 of us tonight, and then a meeting in December.
Yeah. So if we had all 6,
Mm-hmm.
35, yeah, that would be like
Yeah.
200 more.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
I agree. I think it's reasonable and appropriate
Appropriate.
to ask for the amount
Okay.
that funds a functioning conservation commission as it
Okay.
exists with our membership.
Okay.
And what's the population of Albany, just out of curiosity?
A lot of 700-ish.
Yeah,
You know,
700-ish.
we're talking $700 spread amongst every person in town, not necessarily every taxpayer, but you're talking about an extra
Yeah.
dollar on everybody's tax bill, not their rate, their tax bill.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
which I said, if it doesn't get spent, it can get returned
Right.
the next year, it can be offset, so it just seems silly to not budget for it.
Okay.
Considering it's the basically only item in our budget, too,
Yeah.
is the other
Yeah.
thing.
So so the next line on our budget would be operating expenses, which we've always put in about $1,000. I didn't check to see how much we had spent of that operating budget yet this year. In 2022, it was $878. So and we talked, I believe, in discussion last month to keep that operational budget at 1,000.
I think so, cause that, can take care of either plowing or parking lot work. I'm trying to remember, did the parking lot work get done before last winter?
Yeah.
So that would have been
Same
on last
time.
year's.
Yes, yeah.
Fiscal year end on the 1st of January, by the way, sorry.
Yes,
If
we
we're
are
talking
on
about
a,
this.
yes, we are on a,
Yeah.
we were on a calendar year.
Yeah, so I think Russ did that work before snow. It was like this time last year, he was able to fit it in. So any of that would have been in that $800. Plus, I think, did we transfer some money in from? We had money that was left over from our attendance because we had budgeted and then we didn't use it, and so. So I still think 1,000 is valid
Yeah.
to cover any of those expenses that. Whether it be plowing or parking lot maintenance or new plexiglass, whatever, maybe signs and things like that, and that hasn't really been challenged before per se.
Okay, so 1,000.
Yep.
And this is 25-20 is the attendance for.
Yes,
That's
That's
full
what we're gonna
for
propose.
6.
Yes, for
Okay.
6, yeah, because 35 times 6 and then comes up to 20.
And I don't mean to strong arm anybody into that. If
No.
anybody feels differently, I know you say
No,
it makes sense to compromise,
Yeah,
but
and
it just doesn't seem like a place to compromise to me. I don't
yeah,
know.
well,
That's
if
my thought.
selectmen want to cut that, then like you say, they can and figure it out later, I don't know. That's, the way we always budgeted.
Yeah,
I was,
it feels very reasonable, and nothing about it feels unreasonable
mm-hmm,
to me.
so, So then the hot topic would be the 2,500 for the
Grant match is gone.
Yeah,
So
right.
Conservation Commission
Legal,
legal still $1.
$1, and that I know is now come up as a discussion. I believe you had a little bit of discussion on that in your planning board.
Yeah.
And that would go back to, my budgeting days as a selectman, was to keep the line in there, even though you don't think you're gonna, so that when you do need it, it's there. Again, I think the philosophy ebbs and flows as far as who is on the board.
But I think even just from not a philosophy thing, an accounting standpoint,
right.
You can't transfer money into a line item that doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, so
that's
this
why you
way
have
it's
that dollar.
open and
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So keep that dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So then the timber management plan,
And this is not timber management plan is not our proposed budget.
well,
So
but
separate.
we'd discussed this in October, about perhaps putting a line item in there.
Which we tried last year.
Yeah, which we
too.
tried last year. And I think it's still, what I'm hearing from the select board is anything we want, they want it, any requests or any communication they want via email in writing. They're meeting tomorrow and then again on the 29th. If this timber management plans involves the Albany Town Forest, which it does, their feeling is no, that it's not supposed to. And we have $9,000 in an account, and to use that to pay for this,
Yeah.
to pay for that timber management plan. That's where they're coming from. I get that vibe.
Alright, as long as the timber that we manage, we get the receipts from it. I mean, I think that's the
Right.
flip side of it. It's-
So yeah, that email that I sent out.
Mhm.
That came from Kelly this afternoon, which I appreciate her doing. And some discussion that I've had this past month. If we do that timber cut
Yeah.
up on Bald Hill, then we can ask for the money. And it would be a town, that's how I think it was done last time.
It would be a warrant.
Warrant article.
Yeah.
And ask that we could have that. So I think that's the route.
And I think there's two ways to approach that. I think you can do a one-time warrant article that would allow basically the transfer of this sale to go into the conservation fund account. Or you can put a warrant forward that says going forward, any,
Right.
any and all type of thing. And that kind of sounds like that's the way the selectmen want it.
Yeah.
I think even if they agree with us, I think we have to go that route now because we don't have the authority to, they don't have the authority to even put it in there if we want to without that. So I think we have to probably put together a
Yes,
warrant
that's
article
something to
for
work
that.
on.
So.
So as far as the budget, that leaves us with, we have the 4 lines, but the grant is no longer there. So we'll go with the Conservation Commission attendance being 2,520, the operating expenses being 1,000, and we'll keep the Conservation Commission legal fund open for $1, for a total of, change.
3,521.
Good job. 3,521. So I would like to make a motion that be our proposed budget for 2024 of $3,521 total.
And that would
That
be
breakdown.
assuming that we're gonna pay for the timber management plan out of our $9,000
Yes.
fund. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yep.
And then hopefully,
Right.
we'll
We'll get it back.
get
basically.
it back, and then some in that timber sale.
Right.
It's almost actually good timing that he's gonna do it, in the winter, because then by March town meeting, we'll know, and we'll have the warrant article together and ask the town for that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to propose that as our budget.
I think Kathy already
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
in fact,
I'm sorry.
go
I'll
ahead and
second
second
it.
it,
I'll
Karen.
second it,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. And then all those in favor of this proposed 2024 budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous among the three of us, so I will let the selectman's office know that that's what we have voted on. It'll probably be in the minutes, but that'll be one thing to check off the end of the year to-do list.
If we had any heartburn about the timber management plan, the other thing we could get about spending, I mean, $9,000 is not a whole lot, and taking 2,500 out of it, that's a big chunk. We could propose that as a warrant article too, correct?
That's true.
Yeah.
We could propose
And then if it
Anything,
fails,
yeah.
then we just take it out of the account as a
Yeah.
backup. I guess
Yeah.
that could be an option.
Yeah.
Just to throw it out there.
Yeah, I tried to start the conversation that the Conservation Commission is looking to the future. We're looking ahead.
Yeah.
We're not looking at like right now.
Yeah.
We're looking ahead. How do we accumulate monies for future? What if a tract of land comes up that you think is slick and it works fine for us in the future? Instead of taking it all out of the town at that moment, we would have something to say, yes, that's where I'm going, and I'm not sure. Yeah, and like I said, I'm starting to have that conversation
Yeah.
to this is long term, not like right now to pay for the Albany Town Forest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, 'cause we have the access issue too, the Forest Service ever decides to say, you can't
Yep.
access through here, then we've gotta figure that out.
Right.
And if there's any other things that come up that we need to do, I mean, it's the $9,000, I don't even know if it's in an interest-bearing account or anything.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, we're not, and there's not many other opportunities for us to raise money. It's not like we can go do bake sales and,
right.
stuff like that. So that's how we generate revenue. Or it's, getting grants and things like that, so.
Yeah, I came in and talked with Kelly as well today. And, so everything you just said, totally agree with. And there's a couple avenues for getting money. The one is the salvage timber harvest. And
Change use.
I'll come back to that.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
change use, right? So what I said to Kelly, and what I think maybe our plan is to send an email to the select board to get on their agenda, so that we can go as the Conservation Commission to just have this discussion, right? Whether it's one of us or all of us or however that works out. She was saying that the meeting tomorrow is like really booked. They have a couple of non-public session things that could take an indefinite amount of time.
Yep.
And so we're not on the agenda, and if we wanted to just sit and wait, we could just sit and wait, but it could be a long time. And so the next meeting, the select board, is right after Thanksgiving.
Yep, the 29th.
The 29th. So that would maybe, so I think we probably
Yeah.
target that one
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make
to
sense.
actually have this discussion.
Yeah.
And the two things would be, salvage harvest, how that gets allocated, and that would have to be a warrant article. And that's really just a discussion. Like, we'd like to have that. Hopefully you're in
Maybe,
agreement.
Yeah.
If we can all get in agreement that that's not tax revenue, that that's timber revenue, that is, if we're managing the conservation land, we should get the benefit of the revenue. So hopefully we can get everyone on board, and then when it comes to town meeting, when the warrant article is out there, it's like, yes, recommended by the Conservation Commission 5-0, recommended by Select Board 3-0, right?
Yeah.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
Just to have that conversation. That's probably hopefully likely, right? And then the change use tax, that's hopefully likely too. That would be a separate warrant article, right?
Correct.
And then it's the question of how much, what percentage, and that would be a discussion as well to
Yeah. My gut feeling on that is, I mean, it's tax revenue that comes in that the town counts on every year to, offset other expenses and stuff.
Yep.
And if they're squabbling over $500 of our budget, how are they gonna give us 5%, 10%,
Yeah.
20% of very large,
Yeah.
the town takes in every year in that, but, you know,
Probably
it's probably
just-
not a small amount.
Sometimes
Could
it's
have just
small,
said this
sometimes
year
it's
it was
big.
around 10 or something.
Yeah. But
So it's not huge, but
No.
it's,
Huge.
yeah.
But so if it was 50-50 or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, I think, I don't know what's a good number, but it seems like 50-50. But
Right, yeah. And we can change that amount on the floor. Right? And where article? you
That's a
think
good
you
question.
I think you can.
Yeah, I think you can, yeah. Yeah, it can be amended.
Yeah.
amended on the floor.
Because you can, because I mean, you can amend a dollar amount on the floor, so it seems like that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's kind of our two requests as far as I know, unless we have a third
Yeah,
one. But I think
that's
that's
the
it.
two that I could think of.
The two discussion points.
Or I guess, and then if we decided we didn't want to try to pay for the timber management plan out of our own pockets to start, you know, try to put a warrant article forward for it,
Yeah.
and even if they don't, recommend it, you know, we can make a pitch on the floor to say, you know, this is a one-time thing that we have to do every 10 years, and
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
figure we'll spread the wealth here a little bit as opposed to taking 25% of our, you know, and say we have $9,000 in our account, we're gonna lose 25% of it here. So,
Yeah.
you know, and then like I said, if it fails, we have that money to pay for it. It's not like
Right.
it's, but so that's an option too. If we want to put that forward.
Yep. So those
Yeah.
three things. So I had already kind of made most of that email. I can finish the email, forward
Okay.
it to you, and then you can,
Okay.
if you like it, change it. And
All right.
send it along and
Okay,
ask
good.
to be
Yeah.
on the 29th
Yeah.
meeting.
Sure. Yeah, and the other thing was, you know, if we're gonna do a timber, you know, timber cut, it's like submit a permit. And I'm like, okay, so.
But to submit a permit, so how does that work?
timber
What's the
cut
cart?
permit.
What's the cart and the horse? Do
Yeah,
you start
right,
with
yeah.
the permit, or do we have to authorize Tim Nolan to?
Tim does that. He fills out
typically
that
fills
form.
all that, so yeah.
That
But
form.
we have to authorize it first
So we have to authorize him. Yeah.
to go ahead
Ahead.
with the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's also the cart and the horse, and I don't want to play hardball here, but you know, if we go ahead and hire Tim and say, all right, get filed, intent to cut, start cutting and everything, and he starts submitting receipts, and then the selectmen are like, no, we're just going to keep that in the general fund.
Yeah.
We've lost any bargaining power we have, because I mean, we have the bargaining power right now to say, all right, if you don't want to give us the money, then we're just not going to cut. We're just
We're
going to
gonna
let it
lose
sit
that
there and
revenue.
rot. You know, it's silly, but
Mm-hmm.
that's our bargaining chip, unfortunately. So that's
So
what
what could we approve, or consider approving or voting on tonight a authorizing Tim to submit a
an intent to cut.
Sure.
intent to cut?
We could authorize him to do an intent to cut, and then we could say, but don't cut anything until we've met with the selectmen. Could be an option, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So yeah.
But then we're also on the hook if,
Right.
if he's like, he could charge us for,
his
his
time.
administrative, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
It's just in
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
And would the intent to cut include him hiring a contractor, or would it just be in his ballpark at that point? Or would it be him hiring a contractor with that intent to cut? And then we are on the hook, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. He's probably not in a hurry because the ground's not freezing.
Yeah.
So he texted me about coming to the meeting tonight,
Oh, okay.
and this was yesterday, and he said, "Well, I don't think anything's changed because we haven't had
No.
our conversation with the select board yet, so I don't think you need to come." And then I did call him to ask about how that might work if we did authorize it, they did cut, and then we're going to try to do this thing in March on the warrant. When would the check come? How might that work? Can it be held? Can it be? And yeah, he has a escrow basically account, and it can be.
You can just sit there.
It can sit there until after the town meeting.
Yeah.
And in which case, if it gets approved at town meeting, it's effective immediately, is my understanding.
Right.
So then, So with that, kind of the and he was saying like, to hire a contractor and get things done in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
That's like now is the time to really be deciding things.
I
I said, what about December? Our next meeting is December 5th or 6th or 7th or whatever it was. I said, what about then? He's like, if that's what it has to be, that'll work. But if we also,
I think we need to jump on it personally. I think
Yeah,
we
so I mean,
need
I'm
to
gonna
move
just
ahead.
string him along anymore. He's been
No.
very patient and
Yeah.
very helpful with his input and
Yeah.
everything. So, I mean, ultimately, we want, for the health of the forest too. We
Correct.
want to do this,
Yeah.
because
for
we
the
know it's,
forest, for the town,
yeah.
all the things.
So it's not just a money thing, but we just want to make it clear that we'd like to get something out of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, all of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in favor of just if we authorize him to get started on it when
me too.
conditions allow. So I'll make a motion to authorize Tim to file it, or we'll authorize Tim to do a timber harvest. I guess that's the wording.
Yep, and I'll second that motion.
Big drama on the Conservation Commission.
Okay, so you're making a motion to authorize Tim Nolan to submit
The intent to
To
cut,
cut.
I think.
Timber
an intent to cut to
permit intent to cut?
the town of Albany.
Yes. Yep. I think that's what gets this ball rolling.
Yeah,
And he may have a contract for us that we'll need to sign
yes.
before he
Right.
files
Yeah.
that. But
I've seen them, but I haven't actually looked at them in a long time to
yeah,
break it all down.
yeah, yeah. Maybe he could send that along either to you or all of us or whatever. And
Right.
Just
Yeah,
review
so I
it.
can
But
look at it.
sure. Yeah. It should
Yeah,
be pretty
how much is plywood and how much,
Yeah.
what the intent to price is and board footage and.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely not an expert with that, but I've seen seen
Yeah.
a few of them at
Yeah,
least.
me too.
So.
I know a guy.
Okay, so let me know if you agree with this. Kevin Tilton made a motion to authorize Tim Nolan to submit an intent to cut to the town of Albany for the Albany Town Forest salvage cut as proposed.
Put permit in there, intent to cut permit. I believe that's what it is.
Intent
It's
to
a
cut
timber
permit.
permit. Intent to cut timber permit.
Okay.
And, cause that's what the selectmen are like looking for. If you guys wanna cut it, submit the permit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And to get on the agenda,
And,
send an
yeah,
email
email
saying what
what
you
you
want
wanna
to
do, yeah.
For. Fair enough. Okay. So, and Kathy seconded.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
I will let Tim know. Do you want to let Tim know? Do you want me to send? I'll send the draft of these minutes to him.
That'd be
in-
perfect.
in an
Yep.
email?
Yeah, and like I said, he'll probably send us a contract.
Yeah, I just feel like we've been in like this holding pattern for a couple months. All right,
Yeah,
enough.
I think if we'd
Move
been
on.
able to go to that selectmen's meeting,
Yeah,
that would've
right,
wrapped it
yeah.
up a little bit. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and they're just doing things a different way, I guess. COVID has changed things. Like everything's via an email that you read and okay.
Yeah, and then they had a change in leadership. We got delayed for that.
Yeah.
Or postponed for that.
Right. Yeah.
Under some things, understandable. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the last bit, Tim also mentioned that he just mentioned it a little bit that values are up a little bit. So
Oh,
huzzah!
that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, whatever we can get would be fine.
Yep.
So I don't have any other like old business to discuss, or there's no public comment or anything like that. Those were like, to me, the two hot topics that I
Yep.
felt we need to just move forward with.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Any other business, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Sometime in December, there will be a land trust inviting the conservation commissions of the area to walk through what is it? It's the map of the lands based on their weighted valuations. It's kind of the roadmap to the lands for conservation purposes. So to just kind of have that, they're going to host a workshop,
Okay.
have a discussion, and invite the conservation commission. So
cool.
a date's not set yet, but that'll be coming up in December.
Okay, nice.
That's it. That I have.
All right. Well,
All right.
if there is no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Adjournment